Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the Horn of Africa, and there are four main places. You have Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, and Djibouti. So we're going to talk about those places, and then afterward you have an assignment on Google Forms, and it's called the Horn of Africa assignment, and that's what you're going to be turning in for this presentation. The Horn of Africa. The northern part of East Africa is a region called the Horn of Africa. This region got its name because it is shaped like a horn that juts out into the Indian Ocean. The countries here are Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Somalia. Sudan is the largest country in Africa, about one-third the size of the continental United States. The northern part is covered by the sand dunes of the Sahara and the Nubian Desert. Nomads raise camels and goats here. The most fertile part of the country is in the central region. In this area of grassy plains, the two main tributaries of the Nile River, the Blue Nile River and the White Nile River, join together at Khartoum, Sudan's capital. The southern part of Sudan receives plenty of rain and has some fertile soil. It also holds one-third of the world's largest swamps, which drain into the White Nile. Most of Sudan's people live along the Nile River or one of its tributaries. They use water from the Nile to irrigate their fields. Farmers grow sugarcane, grains, nuts, dates, and cotton, the country's leading export. Sheep and gold are other important exports. Recently discovered oil fields in the south offer another possibility of income. Most people in the northern two-thirds of the country are Muslim Arabs. People in the southern one-third come from many different African groups. Most of these southern groups practice Christianity or traditional African religions. In ancient times, Sudan was the center of a powerful civilization called Kush. The people of Kush had close cultural and trade ties with the Egyptians to the north. From the late 1800s to the 1950s, the British and the Egyptians together ruled the entire country. Sudan became an independent nation in 1956. Since then, military leaders generally have ruled Sudan. Its people have faced an uncertain future. In the 1980s, a fierce civil war broke out between the northern and southern peoples. The fighting has disrupted the economy and caused widespread hunger, especially in the south. To end the war, the government has announced that it might allow the south to become an independent nation. A recent drought, or a long period of extreme dryness and water shortages, has made the situation worse. Millions of people have starved to death, and major outbreaks of diseases have swept through the country. Landlocked Ethiopia is almost twice the size of Texas. Ethiopia's landscape varies from hot lowlands to rugged mountains. The central part of Ethiopia is a highland plateau sliced through by the Great Rift Valley. The valley forms deep river gorges and beautiful waterfalls. Mild temperatures and good soils make the highlands Ethiopia's best farming region. Farmers raise grains, sugarcane, potatoes, and coffee. Coffee is a major export crop. The southern highlands are believed to be the world's original home of coffee. Rain is not consistent in many parts of Ethiopia. Low rainfall in some years brings on drought. Famine brought Ethiopia to the world's attention in the 1980s. At that time, drought had turned the fields once rich in crops to seas of dust. Despite food aid, more than 1 million Ethiopians died. Scientists have found what they believe to be the remains of the oldest known human ancestors in Ethiopia. Thousands of years ago, Ethiopian officials traveled to Egypt to meet with the pharaohs. Later, Ethiopia developed important trade links to the Roman Empire. For centuries, kings and emperors ruled Ethiopia. During the late 1800s, Ethiopia successfully withstood European attempts to control it. The last emperor was overthrown in 1974, and the country suffered under a military dictator. Now it is trying to build a democratic government. With 59.7 million people, Ethiopia has more people than any other country in East Africa. The capital, Addis Ababa, is the largest city in the region. About 85% of Ethiopians live in rural areas. Ethiopia may be one of Africa's oldest countries, but Eritrea is certainly the newest. In 1993, after 30 years of war, Eritrea won its independence from Ethiopia. Eritrea sits on the shores of the Red Sea. When Eritrea became a country, Ethiopia became landlocked, which means that it's surrounded by land on all sides. Most of Eritrea's 4 million people farm the land. Farming is uncertain work because of the dry climate. The long war with Ethiopia has hurt farming. The war did have a positive effect on some of Eritrea's people, however. Women formed about 1/3 of the army that won the war. After the war ended, the new government passed laws that gave women more rights than they've ever had before. Djibouti. This country lies at the northern tip of the Great Rift Valley, where 3 of the Earth's plates join. The plates are huge slabs of rock that make up the Earth's crust. In Djibouti, 2 of these plates are pulling away from each other. As they separate, fiery hot rock rises to the Earth's surface, causing activity. Djibouti wraps around a natural harbor at the point where the Red Sea meets the Gulf of Aden. This tiny country is one of Earth's hottest, driest places. Its landscape is covered by rocky desert. Here and there you will find the desert interrupted by salt lakes and rare patches of grasslands. In the past, they lived a nomadic life of herding. Because of Djibouti's dry climate, farming and herding are difficult. In recent years, many people have moved to the capital city, also called Djibouti. Here they have found jobs in the city's docks because the city is a busy international seaport. Somalia borders the Gulf of Aden in the Indian Ocean. Shaped like the number 7, the country is almost as large as the size of Texas. Like Eritrea and Djibouti, most of Somalia is hot, dry country where farming is difficult. Most of Somalia's people are nomadic herders on the country's scrubby plateaus. In the south, rivers provide water for irrigation. Farmers here grow fruits, sugarcane, and bananas. Nearly all of the people of Somalia are Muslims, but they are deeply divided. They belong to different clans or groups of people who are related to one another. In the late 1980s, disputes between these clans led to civil war. When a drought struck a few years later, hundreds of thousands of people starved to death. The United States and other countries tried to restore some order and distribute food. The fighting continued, however, and often kept the aid from reaching the people who needed it. Even today, armed groups control various parts of Somalia, and there is no real government in charge.